Okay, I'm out doing some routine maintenance on the 2003 Honda Pilot. I've replaced the headlight, the left headlight, the driver's headlight was burned out, so I went ahead and replaced both of them because I didn't want them to be uneven or different colors or any of that kind of stuff. I replaced the engine air filter, which was 4 screws that held that together. Probably more difficult than it needed to be, and I'm a little surprised at Honda. Topped off all the fluids, and I decided to change the cabin air filter only because the book at the auto parts store indicated that this car had one. I didn't know that it had one. I've never changed it, so this could be quite interesting. So I bought one right here. As you can see, it is huge. I couldn't find any place under the hood that it might go. My Ford Taurus has one that's under the hood, under the passenger side windshield wiper. You pull up a plastic cover and there it is. I think there's 1 or 2 screws that hold something in place, a drip panel or something, and then you replace it. This one, I actually returned the filter, telling the attendant at Vance Auto Parts or AutoZone or wherever I went that there was no such thing, and he looked it up and said sure enough there is. He pointed me to, of course, a YouTube video of which I am following now. So I'm inside the car on the passenger side. I've had to remove the kick panel right here. The door is over here. Remove this kick panel. I've had to remove the stops on the glove box, which are right on the, you see that hole, take those out. Those popped right out real easy. So the glove box opens up like that, giving you access to everything that you think you would need. Well, I'm trying to figure out where this fits in there. It's not obvious, but if you look closely, and after you've watched the YouTube video, of course, this is an access panel, and it just pops off. There's a tab at the top, the one at the bottom. What is very un-Honda-like is there's this reinforcement bar here that's in the way that prohibits you from being able to take this out. So I'm going to have to do some minor surgery here, and it entails removing 2 screws here and 1 underneath, which means I'm going to have to close this back to get to it, and of course it's blind, you can't see it. You can feel it though. And then on this side, the same thing. There's a screw there, and then one, this is the back side of it right here, you can see, but coming up from the bottom. So again, I'm going to have to do that, and it's blind. So stand by. As expected, the screws on this side were pretty easy to get out. This is near impossible to get out, and there's one on each side, and I have to take them out. There's just no way to see what you're doing. Well, that one just fell off, so maybe I can get it out now. Hang on. Alright, I finally got the bracket off. As you can see, it's out of the way. I pulled the cover plate off, and you can already see this. Oh my God, what a mess. I would be willing to bet this, I know this hasn't been changed since we've owned the car, and we've owned the car for about 10 years. The car is a 2003 model. The previous owner took very, very good care of it. It probably had all the services done. So I'm guessing that this filter was last changed by him somewhere. But anyways, I'm going to pull this out. This is a mess, as you will see. Yeah, I'm going to have to go get the vacuum cleaner. And this thing is filthy, as you can see. It is filthy. And looks like moldy too. Yuck. Thankfully, I have my handy dandy Dyson vacuum cleaner with the little pointy tip on it that I hopefully can get in here and clean this stuff out. not. How in the world do leaves get in here is what I want to know. Okay, I've been out here for probably 2 hours and I'm giving up for today. I'm just frustrated. These screws that they put in are blind. You have to come in from the back. It is virtually impossible to do. I got one of them started on this side and I could not get this one started because there's this piece of wire that's right in the way and I can't get my fingers in there. I can't get a socket in there. I can't get any kind of wrench in there or anything to try to hold that or to do it, and I don't have enough torque with my fingertips to turn the screw to get it started to where I can actually put a nut driver on it or anything else. So I thought about there are these captive devices on there that are mounted like this so that the screw comes up from the bottom and then it threads into this and it's captive. Well, that's great, but like I said, it's almost impossible to get the screw in from the back. So I thought I would turn these over and put them on these tabs backwards to where I can put the screw in from the top and have it catch on the back side. But as you can probably guess, these are not big enough to fit on this, which is a little bit thicker. And when I do put it on there, the holes don't line up and it's just a mess. So I tried another approach. I had some old screws laying around the house with some little fender washers. I tried to make my own. I ran into the same problem. I've got to put a tiny nut on the back of this, and on this side over here where this wire is, it is really hard. This is a really disappointing turn of events. I would expect this with a Ford, because Ford does this kind of stuff all the time. They make it really, really difficult to get to. I guess they hope that they don't ever have to, or maybe you get to pay them $80 an hour to do it. I don't know. I don't expect this of Honda or a Toyota or anything else like that. I just don't expect it. I expect it to be simple, well thought out, and this must have been an afterthought. All right, day 2 and probably hour 3 of replacing the cabin air filter in the 2003 Honda Pilot project I started yesterday. I spent about 2 to 2.5 hours on it yesterday. I got frustrated to the point where I was ineffective and just getting mad. Decided to call it a day. I slept on it, had some ideas. Nothing revolutionary, but it did require me to make a trip to the local hardware store. I went to Bill's True Value, as you can see by this receipt. Whopping total of $3.57 of money I should have never had to spend. I did not go to Lowe's or Home Depot because I would still be there looking for the part. I bought 2, I haven't put the stops back in yet, so this is going to fall down, but I bought 2 simple metric screws, the shiny one there, 4 fender washers, top and bottom on each, and believe it or not, a wing nut for the back. The wing nut was large enough and it allowed me to have enough torque to be able to hold it and actually get it threaded. I still had to do this blind. The only way to do it was to put the screw in, and since the screw was going to spin around and push back out as soon as I put pressure on it, I took some heavy-duty duct tape right here, a couple of pieces, and I actually just put it on top of the screw and taped it into place to make it a captive screw. It didn't work perfectly, but it did work well enough, and I did that on both sides. That held the screw in to where I could come in from behind, put the fender washer on the bottom against gravity, mind you, and then while holding that in place, somehow getting a wing nut started, all by feel. So I will put a flag in this and declare victory. I will put these back in. These are the stops for the glove box, and the way to do that is to, of course, holding it with your legs. This is a multi appendage activity. Stick this through, make sure it's far enough up in there like that. Probably can't see that. And then it just clips in. Sorry, I can't hold the camera and do this at the same time. Probably shouldn't even try to do this, but there. There's one of those on each side. Again, push this up into where it's beyond where it's going to catch, and just clip it into place. Sorry, that was a terrible camera shot, but there. In, out. And I will say that I used the heater and or the air conditioner today on the way to the hardware store, and the airflow seems to be increased, which is no surprise. Also, the sounds that I used to hear in there for the longest time, which sounded like leaves in the fan blades, I think is now gone. And of course it was leaves, they just weren't necessarily in the fan blades, they were further down into the where the filter is. To be prudent, I'm probably going to open the hood and find the air intake for this whole contraption and make sure that there's no leaves in there, because if they're down in the filter box, you know that they're throughout the system, and I need to get them out, otherwise they're just going to fall right back down in there and clog it up again. Okay, one more thing before I close this project, declare victory. As I suspected, looks like the air intake for the interior is right here in front of the driver. It goes into a not really a duct, just an area, and there's a couple of holes that go through the firewall back into the car. And of course, as you can see, the debris and stuff that I've already cleaned here, there's a fair amount of it in this box, and actually scattered all the way down to the other end. So I took up a piece of what was like a weather strip thing here. It had these fasteners. I was able to carefully pull it up using a putty knife to push the fasteners up from the bottom to keep from ripping the rubber, because it's pretty fragile, and of course it's 17 years old, which that allowed me then to raise this, and I really can't get a good shot of what's in there, but there's a fair amount of debris in there. I mentioned earlier that prudent vehicle owners always read their owner's manual. Well, Shade Tree mechanics almost never read the instructions. This is the sheet of paper that came with the air filter that I bought yesterday. And there's a picture of the air filter. What I find curious is this. When you zoom in here and we look at the tools that are required, Phillips screwdriver, that's true, I needed that. 5/16 nut driver, I needed that. And this last one in bold print, mind you, first time installation, a fine-tooth saw blade or a set of heavy-duty wire cutters. So I'm thinking, well, why would you need that? Maybe for the metal support? Come down here to step number 5. First time installation only. Use a fine-tooth saw blade or a set of heavy-duty wire cutters to cut the plastic crossbar at each end on the front, on the perforations to remove and discard. Figure 6, 5 and 6. So they're taking out the crossbar. Well, my crossbar was metal, so that wasn't of no help to me, even if I had read these instructions first.